My name is George Miller. I'm 71 years old. Late one night, unable to sleep, I overheard my son Michael and his wife Sophia whispering. After Thanksgiving, he goes straight to the nursing home, she said. We need this house, Michael, that debt is due. My blood ran cold. Before I knew it, I'd kicked their door open. Before I go anywhere, I shouted, you two are watching a special film I've prepared. And right then my daughter-in-law fainted dead away. Let me know in the comments where you're listening to my story from. And please like and subscribe if you believe family should mean more than dollar signs. The house felt stuffy that night. A lingering cough from a bout of flu kept me tossing and turning. Evelyn, my wife, bless her soul, always worried I didn't rest enough. Maybe she had a point. This old place, the one we filled with 50 years of laughter and life, felt cavernous now. Especially since Michael, my only son, and his wife Sophia had moved in 6 months back. Just temporary, they said. Just until Michael's latest sure-thing business idea bounced back. 6 months is a long time for temporary. I padded down the hallway towards the kitchen for some water, wearing the worn slippers Evelyn gave me years ago. The downstairs was dark except for a sliver of light escaping from under the den door. They were still up, arguing maybe no. The voices were too low for that. More like scheming. Usually I'd just turn around, give them their space. But that cough tickled my throat again, and I paused, leaning against the wall just out of sight, listening. Sophia's voice came first, sharp, impatient. Are you absolutely sure everything's finalized? The paperwork for Green Valley is confirmed Green Valley. My mind snagged on the name. That fancy place Sophia mentioned a while back. Advertised scenic gardens and memory care. My memory was just fine, thank you very much. Michael's voice was lower, hesitant. Yes, Soph, I told you. Mrs. Henderson called this afternoon. Admission is set for the Monday after Thanksgiving. But are you positive about Dr. Evans's assessment? Dad seemed clearer today. Dr. Evans. The new guy Michael insisted I see. Said my old doctor, Dr. Peterson, who'd treated me for 30 years, wasn't up to date. Evans spent the whole appointment asking me about dates, names, if I remembered what I had for breakfast. Seemed obsessed with my memory. I thought he was just being thorough. Now, a sick feeling started churning in my gut. Sophia let out an exasperated sigh, the sound cutting through the quiet. Clearer, Michael. Stop being sentimental. He almost set the kitchen on fire last week trying to make toast. He left the gas on. Dr. Evans was very clear. Early stage dementia, progressive. It's only going to get worse. This is the kindest thing, really, for him. The toast. I'd burned the damn toast because the phone rang just as it popped up. An accident anyone could make. But the gas stove. That was a lie. A flat-out lie. I hadn't used the gas stove in weeks, preferring the microwave since Evelyn passed. Sophia must have... Could she have deliberately left it on and then blamed me why? The answer came sickeningly fast in her next whisper. And kinder for us. Sophia hissed, her voice dropping lower, laced with a venom that chilled me to the bone. We need this house, Michael. That loan consolidation payment is due the first week of December. We sell this place fast, pay off that debt, maybe even have enough left for a down payment on that condo downtown. Think about it. No more living under his roof, no more pretending. The debt. Of course. Michael's business venture. The one that required a hefty investment I'd reluctantly provided from my retirement savings, framed as a loan he swore he'd repay with interest. Sell my house, the house Evelyn and I poured our hearts and souls into, raised him in to pay off his debts, and the condo downtown. The one Sophia was always browsing online, sighing about how much she deserved, a fresh start. Michael mumbled something I couldn't quite catch, something that sounded like a protest, mentioning what I'd done for them. Sophia cut him off ruthlessly. Everything he's done, he owes us. You've supported him financially for years, since Mom died, even before. And what has he done lately, besides forget things and complain? Green Valley has activities, nurses 24/7. He'll be safer there. Happier, probably. We visit on Sundays. It's perfect. Supported me. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. A wave of dizziness washed over me, followed by a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. Since Evelyn died, I was the one supporting them, covering their groceries when Michael was between projects, paying that unexpected tax bill he claimed surprised him, giving Sophia money for essentials that always seemed to include new shoes or salon visits. And my savings, my nest egg painstakingly built over 40 years of working at the plant, was dwindling at an alarming rate thanks to Michael's temporary need. They weren't supporting me. They were draining me dry. And now they planned to discard me like an empty wallet. Safer, happier, no. They wanted me out of the way. They wanted my house. They wanted my money, my own son. The image of Evelyn's face flashed in my mind. Her pride when we finally paid off the mortgage, her joy planting the rose bushes in the front yard. This wasn't just wood and plaster. It was our life. And they were talking about selling it like it was nothing, a mere obstacle to their downtown condo dreams. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. But beneath the shock, something else ignited. A cold, hard resolve I hadn't felt in years. They thought I was finished fading away. They were wrong. The flimsy den door felt like paper under my foot. Green Valley. I roared, my voice raw, echoing in the suddenly silent room. After Thanksgiving, Michael leaped to his feet, knocking over a stack of magazines. Dad. What the hell are you doing? Sophia spun around, her face instantly draining of color, her hand flying to her chest. George, you scared me half to death. You shouldn't be eavesdropping. It's rude, Ruda. I stalked into the room, my slippers slapping against the floor. The lingering weakness from the flu vanished, burned away by fury. Safer, Sapir, I spat the words out. Or just out of your way so you can sell my home from under me to pay off your debts. I jabbed a finger towards the sleek, ridiculously large television mounted on the wall. A 65-inch monstrosity they'd insisted was essential, just last month charged no doubt to one of the credit cards I foolishly still paid. Before I go anywhere, before you ship me off to rot in some fancy prison you call a nursing home, you two are going to sit right there and watch a special film I've prepared. Sophia's eyes widened in sheer terror. She opened her mouth as if to scream, but only a choked gasp escaped. Her body went limp, her eyes rolled back, and she crumpled to the floor in a heap. Sophia, Soph. Michael yelled, dropping to his knees beside her, frantically shaking her shoulder. Dad! Look what you've done, she's fainted, son. He looked up at me, his face a mess of conflicting emotions. Fear, guilt, anger, but mostly utter panic. What film? What are you talking about? What have you done? I stood there breathing heavily, looking down at the scene. My son cradling his unconscious wife, the architect of my planned demise. The irony wasn't lost on me. They thought the game was over. They thought they had won. They didn't know I'd just shuffled the deck. And I held all the cards. The show, as they say, was just beginning. Sophia stirred on the floor, blinking her eyes open like a startled doe. Michael was hovering over her, patting her cheek, his voice a frantic whisper. Soph, honey, are you okay? Speak to me. She looked around, confused for a second. Then her eyes landed on me, standing there by the doorway. The terror flooded back into her face. Get him away from me, she whimpered, shrinking back against Michael's legs. Michael helped her sit up, shooting me a look mixed with anger and pleading. Dad, really? Look what you did. You scared her half to death, barging in like that, shouting nonsense. Film nursing homes, what's gotten into you? He was trying to regain control, trying to paint me as the unstable one, the source of the problem. Classic Michael, always deflecting. I let out a shaky breath, summoning every ounce of acting ability I didn't know I possessed. I rubbed my temples, leaning heavily against the doorframe. Film, did I say film? Oh dear, I don't know what came over me. Must be the flu lingering. Or maybe I'm more tired than I thought. My voice trembled slightly, just enough. I let my shoulders slump, my gaze drift vaguely around the room, Green Valley. Was that what I heard, silly old me? Probably just dreaming on my feet again. Forgive an old man, Sophia Michael. Didn't mean to cause a fuss. Sophia stared at me, her eyes narrowed, suspicion warring with relief. Michael helped her to the armchair, still watching me closely. Dad, maybe you should go back to bed, he said, his tone softening slightly, testing the waters. You haven't been yourself since you got sick. We're just worried about you. Worried about me, or worried I'd overheard their rotten plan. Inside, my anger simmered, a cold, hard knot in my stomach. They thought I was losing it. Good. Perfect. Let them think the old man was finally succumbing to age and confusion. Let them relax, let them get careless. I had seen the calculation in Sophia's eyes, the weakness in Michael's. They had underestimated me, and that was going to be their downfall. Yes, son, I mumbled, shuffling my feet. Bed sounds good. Just needed some water. Long night. Sorry again. I turned slowly, deliberately, letting my hand tremble as I reached for the doorframe again and shuffled back down the hallway towards my room, feeling their eyes boring into my back. I didn't look back. The mask of the frail, confused old man stayed firmly in place until my bedroom door clicked shut behind me. Then the trembling stopped. The vacant look vanished. My eyes hardened. Film, oh yes, there would be a film. And they were going to be the unwilling stars. The next morning, I kept up the act. I came down late for breakfast, looking slightly disoriented. I forgot where the coffee filters were spilled a little milk. Sophia watched me like a hawk, her fake solicitousness cloying. George, are you sure you're all right? Maybe Michael should take you back to Dr. Evans today. No, dear. I waved her off weakly. Just a bit foggy this morning. Slept poorly. Fine now. I ate slowly, pretending to struggle with my toast. Michael avoided my eyes, engrossed in his phone. They exchanged a look over my head. Relief mixed with impatience. They thought I was harmless, easily managed. Perfect. Later that morning, when Michael left for a supposed job interview, though I suspected it was more likely a meeting about that looming debt, and Sophia was busy upstairs, probably planning her new life in my house, I made my move. I retreated to my study, the one place they rarely bothered me, filled with Evelyn's old books and my model train collection. I closed the door firmly and pulled out the old flip phone I kept charged in my desk drawer for emergencies, the one they didn't know about. My hands were steady now. First call, Ms. Davis. Elizabeth Davis. Sharp as a tack, retired prosecutor turned private practice attorney. Handled Evelyn's will years ago. No nonsense kind of woman. Exactly what I needed. The phone picked up on the second ring. Davis Law, her voice was crisp, professional. Elizabeth, it's George Miller. My voice was low, urgent. I need to see you, as soon as possible. It's a delicate family matter. Very urgent. There was a pause. George. It's been years. Is everything all right? You sound stressed. Can't talk now, I whispered, glancing towards the closed door. But I need your expertise. Urgently. When can you see me? She understood the tone immediately. No more questions. I have a cancellation tomorrow morning. 10 a.m. My office. Bring everything you think might be relevant. Thank you, Elizabeth. 10 a.m. I hung up before she could ask more. One down. Next call, Jim Peterson. My oldest friend. Lived down the street. Retired engineer wizard with gadgets and loyal as they come. If anyone could help me with the technical side of things, it was Jim. Jim picked up, his voice cheerful. George, good to hear from you, buddy. How you feeling after that flu, Jim? I kept my voice low again. Not great, actually. Listen, I need your help with something. Something discreet. Can you come over later? Say around 3, when Michael and Sophia are usually out. Discreet Jim's cheerfulness vanished, replaced by concern. What's going on, George? You sound spooked. Just need your technical know-how for a little project, I hedged. Easier to explain in person. Can you make it? 3 p.m., yeah. George, sure. I'll be there. You sure you're okay? I'll be better after I talk to you. See you at 3. I ended the call. 2 down. The pieces were starting to move. They thought they were playing chess with a pawn. They were about to find out they'd kicked a hornet's nest. Lying back in my worn leather chair, I closed my eyes for a moment. Evelyn's smiling face swam into view. We'd handle this, Ev, I thought. Just like we always did. Together in spirit. They messed with the wrong old man. They messed with our house. And they were going to regret it. Deeply. Later that afternoon, Sophia was engrossed in one of her lengthy phone calls, pacing the living room. Her voice a low murmur, discussing what sounded like expensive curtain fabrics. Michael was still out. It was my chance. I slipped back into my study, locking the door behind me. Something I hadn't done in years, but now felt necessary. My old oak desk stood solid and reassuring in the corner, a relic from my working days. Inside the bottom drawer, beneath stacks of old tax returns, was the metal lockbox where Evelyn and I kept everything important. My hands didn't tremble as I fitted the small key into the lock. First, the deed to the house. I unfolded the thick paper, my eyes scanning the familiar legal language. There it was, clear as day, George Miller and Evelyn Miller, tenants by the entirety. And after Evelyn passed, sole ownership transferred to George Miller. My name. Alone. A wave of relief washed over me quickly, followed by a renewed surge of anger. They couldn't just take it. They knew they couldn't, which is why they needed the lies, the fake dementia diagnosis, the nursing home. It wasn't just greed. It was calculated theft disguised as concern. Evelyn would have raised hell. I could almost hear her sharp voice now. George, don't let those vultures take what we worked 50 years for. This house is our legacy, not their slush fund. She never fully trusted Sophia's ambition. I remembered that now. Subtle warnings I'd dismissed as motherly protectiveness back then. Next, the bank statements. I kept the last 6 months' worth filed neatly. I spread them out on the desk, forcing myself to focus, to look past the usual debits for utilities, property taxes, my modest credit card bills. Here, a withdrawal 3 months ago. $1,500. Marked simply, cash, household. I didn't remember taking out that much cash. Maybe for a repair. The roof was sound, the furnace checked last fall. Then another 2 months back, $2,000. Transfer. M. Miller Investment. Michael's investment. That must have been seed money for his latest brilliant scheme, the one that supposedly just needed a little boost. He'd made it sound so promising, so foolproof. And I always had believed him, or wanted to believe him. Hadn't even asked for details, just signed the transfer slip he'd brought me already filled out. Fool. And these smaller charges, recurring ones. Streaming services I never watched. $100 a month for a wellness subscription I'd never heard of. $50 for a wine club delivery. Evelyn and I enjoyed a glass of Chardonnay now and then, but a club that smelled like Sophia. Little leaks adding up. Hundreds, maybe thousands, siphoned off so smoothly I hadn't even noticed until I was looking for them. They hadn't just been asking for big sums, they'd been nickel and diming me too. Thinking back, Michael had asked me to switch to online banking a while ago, saying it was easier, more modern. Easier for him to manage, maybe. Easier to hide these transactions. Then I found the folder Michael had brought over right after my flu cleared up. Medical forms, important, he'd labeled it. Said it was just standard stuff. Dr. Evans needed permissions for treatment insurance updates. I'd been feeling weak, head still fuzzy. I'd barely glanced at them, just signed where he pointed. Now reading carefully, my blood turned to ice. Tucked amongst the standard HIPAA releases and insurance forms was a durable power of attorney for healthcare decisions. Standard enough. But then another document. A financial power of attorney, giving Michael sweeping authority over my accounts, my investments, my property. Effective immediately upon signature, not upon incapacitation. I scanned the signature line. My name scribbled shakily. Dated the week I was sickest. He'd slipped it in, lipped it, and I'd signed it, trusting my own son implicitly. The pen felt heavy in my hand as I remembered him guiding it, saying, "Just here, Dad, standard medical release. Liar. Cold-blooded liar." Evelyn's face flashed before me again, the worry lines around her eyes the day Michael's first business failed. We helped him then, of course. Took out a second mortgage even. He swore he'd learned his lesson. But Evelyn had confided in me later, "George, I worry about him. He wants things too fast. He doesn't understand the value of hard work the way we do." She saw it. Years ago. And I hadn't listened. I remembered Michael as a boy, so earnest, so eager to please after his mother died. Maybe I'd overcompensated, tried too hard to fill the void, gave him too much too easily. Paid for college, helped with the down payment on his first apartment, co-signed for his first car loan. Always rationalizing it. He's young, he needs a good start. He's my only son. When did helping turn into enabling? When did support become a crutch he refused to let go of? It wasn't just Michael, though. Sophia's influence was undeniable. Since she arrived, the requests for money became demands disguised as needs. Her tastes were expensive. That new designer handbag she carried claimed it was a fantastic outlet find. The weekend spa trips with her friends justified as networking opportunities. And Michael, desperate to keep her happy, seemed willing to do anything, even exploit his own father. They talked about saving, about tightening their belts, yet there was always money for a new gadget, a fancy dinner out, that enormous TV that practically screamed, "We live beyond our means." My means, specifically. I gathered the incriminating bank statements, the power of attorney I hadn't understood I'd signed. Small clues, yes, but together they painted a damning picture. A picture of deceit, manipulation, and staggering entitlement. This wasn't just about a nursing home anymore. This was about a deliberate long-term plan to bleed me dry and discard me. The anger returned cold and sharp. They thought I was finished. They thought they held all the power because of a fraudulently obtained signature and a bogus medical opinion. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. I carefully put the documents into a separate envelope, hiding it deep within the lockbox. Tomorrow, Ms. Davis would see these, and the game would truly begin. For the next few days, I played the part of the slightly befuddled recovering invalid to perfection. I'd ask Sophia the same question twice in an hour. I'd misplace my reading glasses only to have Michael find them right on top of my head. I moved slower, sighed more often, complained mildly about aches and pains I didn't really feel. It was exhausting, this constant performance, but necessary. I watched Michael and Sophia relax just slightly. Their tense whispers became less frequent. Their watchful eyes softened, replaced by a kind of weary impatience. They started leaving me alone more often, probably assuming I was harmless, lost in my own foggy world. But they weren't entirely convinced. I'd catch Sophia watching me sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. Once I saw Michael pick up my medication bottle Dr. Evans had prescribed, some mild sedative I'd only pretended to take, checking the pill count. They were still wary, still moving forward with their plan, but perhaps with less urgency now that the immediate threat of discovery seemed to have passed. They'd have quiet conversations on the patio, voices too low to hear clearly, stopping abruptly if I happened to walk near the window. They were careful, but their confidence was returning. They thought they were back in control. That afternoon, right on schedule at 3 p.m., the doorbell rang. Sophia was upstairs taking one of her long, personal calls. Michael hadn't returned from his interview. I shuffled to the door, deliberately taking my time. Jim Peterson stood there holding a small bag of groceries. My cover story. "George, my man," he boomed a little too loudly perhaps, but his eyes were sharp, assessing. "Just bringing over those things you asked for. Thought I'd check in, see how you're doing." "Come on in, Jim," I said, keeping my voice frail. "Good of you to stop by. Sophia's upstairs. Michael's out. Just me rattling around." I led him towards the study, glancing back towards the stairs. As soon as the study door was closed, Jim's demeanor changed. "Okay, George. What in Sam Hill is going on? You sounded like the devil himself was after you on the phone. And what's this project?" I quickly explained the situation, the overheard conversation, the nursing home plan, the financial power of attorney, my suspicions. Jim listened intently, his cheerful face hardening into a grim mask. "That low down, your own son and Sophia. I always thought she was a piece of work." His anger was reassuring. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. "Okay, George," he said, rolling up his sleeves. "What do you need me to do?" From his grocery bag, he pulled out not just milk and bread, but several small, discreet packages. Tiny cameras smaller than my thumb, miniature audio recorders, gifts from his engineer son, who worked in security systems. "We need eyes and ears, Jim," I whispered. "In the den near the phone. Maybe the living room, too. Where they talk." Jim nodded, instantly grasping the plan. "All right, let's work fast. You keep watch. Tell me if you hear Sophia moving." We started in the den. Jim, surprisingly nimble for his age, knelt beside the bookshelf. He chose a spot behind a row of Evelyn's old encyclopedias, drilling a minuscule hole, mounting one of the tiny cameras. It was barely visible, just a dark speck against the wood grain. "Good," I murmured, peering at it. "Now the audio." He placed a small recorder under the lip of the heavy oak desk, secured with double-sided tape, its microphone pointing towards the center of the room. Perfect spot to catch phone calls and conversations. My heart was pounding. Every creak of the floorboards upstairs sent a jolt of panic through me. What if she came down? What if Michael came home early suddenly? The landline phone on the desk rang, startling us both. Jim froze, dropping a tiny screw. "Damn it," he whispered, fumbling for it on the carpet. I held my breath, listening. Footsteps upstairs. Sophia's voice muffled. "Is someone down there? Just—" "Jim Peterson dropped by with groceries," I called out, trying to sound normal, my voice higher than usual. "He's just leaving." The footsteps paused, then retreated. False alarm. Jim found the screw, his face pale. "Close one," he muttered quickly, finishing the installation. "Okay, den is wired." "Where next?" "Living room," I whispered, pointing towards the large ficus tree in the corner near the armchair, where Sophia usually sat during her endless phone calls. Jim expertly concealed another camera amongst the leaves, aiming it towards the main seating area. He tucked an audio recorder behind a large framed photo of Evelyn and me on our wedding day. Using her memory to trap them felt wrong but necessary. "One more," I said. "Kitchen phone. They sometimes talk there while making coffee." Jim quickly placed the last audio recorder under the small wall-mounted phone cabinet hidden from casual view. "Done," he whispered, packing away his tools into the now empty grocery bag. "Let's hope these little spies do their job." He clapped me on the shoulder. "Call me if you need anything else, George." Anything at all. And be careful. I walked him to the door, resuming my frail old man persona. Thanks for stopping by, Jim, I said loudly enough for Sophia to potentially hear. Always good to see you. Yeah, you take care, George, he replied, playing along. See you next week for poker, you bet. As Jim walked down the path, I closed the door, leaning against it for a moment, my heart still racing. The devices were in place. Step one of the counteroffensive was complete. Now came the hard part, waiting. Waiting for them to reveal themselves, waiting for the evidence that would expose their lies and hopefully save me from their cold-hearted plan. The house felt different now, charged with a secret energy. It wasn't just my home anymore. It was a stage. And the final act was about to begin. That evening, after Michael and Sophia had gone out, claiming a dinner meeting that probably involved more spending of my money, I headed back to the study. Jim had shown me how to access the recordings from the devices via a small, discreet receiver connected to my old desktop computer. But before checking for incriminating conversations, I needed to dig deeper into the money trail. Michael had set up my online banking access months ago, insisting it was more secure and easier to track. Easier for him to manipulate, I now suspected. I hadn't used it much, preferring my old paper statements. He'd even helped me choose a password, something simple he claimed I wouldn't forget. It took me a few tries. Was it Evelyn's birthday, our anniversary? Before I finally remembered the combination, he'd suggested Michael's own birth date, followed by Sophia's initials. The irony wasn't lost on me. Access granted. The screen glowed with columns of numbers. My checking account, my savings, the small investment portfolio I'd carefully built. At first glance, things looked thinner than I expected, but not alarmingly so. But the paper statements only showed the last few months. The online portal went back years. I started scrolling back month by month past the recent questionable cash withdrawals and transfers Michael had helped me with. Further back. 8 months ago, there. A $5,000 transfer. Payee, Apex Holdings, LLC. Never heard of them. Looked like some kind of investment firm maybe, or maybe something else entirely. Michael hadn't mentioned any new investments. Then scrolling further, I found the pattern. Regular monthly payments ranging from $500 to $800 to a company called Prestige Credit Solutions for the past year and a half. Prestige Credit Solutions sounded suspiciously like a high-interest lender, the kind people go to when banks turn them down, whose credit needed solving. Mine was impeccable. It had to be Michael's. That business venture must have been a bigger disaster than he let on. Or maybe it was Sophia's spending. I clicked over to the credit card linked to my main account. Michael and Sophia were authorized users, a decision I now regretted bitterly. They had promised to only use it for shared household expenses and emergencies. The statement history told a different story. Charges from high-end department stores, Bloomingdale's Saks, restaurant bills from places I couldn't even afford the appetizer at, spa treatments, airline tickets. A charge from Hawaiian Airlines 6 months ago for 2 round-trip tickets. That must have been their anniversary getaway they claimed a friend gifted them. Gifted my foot, paid for by me, and the small stuff Jim and I found earlier. The streaming services, the wine club. That was just the tip of the iceberg. Gym memberships at an exclusive fitness club downtown. Monthly subscriptions to fashion magazines. Flower delivery services. It was relentless. A constant drain disguised amongst my legitimate expenses. They weren't just taking lump sums. They were bleeding me slowly, systematically, funding a lifestyle far beyond their means, all while playing the part of the struggling, dutiful son and daughter-in-law. The total was staggering. Going back just 2 years, adding up the large transfers, the payments to the credit solutions company, the non-stop luxury spending on the credit card. It was easily over $40,000. Maybe 50. And that was just what I could clearly identify. God knows what those cash withdrawals were really for. Sophia's words from the night before echoed in my head. That loan consolidation payment is due the first week of December. It all clicked into place. They weren't just trying to get the house for a future condo. They were desperately trying to cover massive existing debts they'd likely accumulated living this charade. Selling my house wasn't just about upgrading their lives. It was about saving their own skins financially. The betrayal felt deeper now, colder. It wasn't just opportunistic greed. It was premeditated, sustained fraud carried out over years, masked by false affection and feigned concern. They hadn't just taken my money. They'd taken my trust, my peace of mind, my sense of security in my own home. They'd woven a web of lies so thick I hadn't seen it until I was completely entangled. I saved screenshots of everything. Every suspicious transfer, every outrageous credit card charge, every payment to that loan company. Evidence, hard, undeniable proof. Ms. Davis would need this tomorrow. This wasn't just about stopping them from putting me in a home anymore. This was about holding them accountable for years of calculated deception. The frail old man act was over. George Miller, the provider, the protector, the man Evelyn married, was back. And he was ready to fight. The next morning, at precisely 10 a.m., I walked into Elizabeth Davis's downtown office. It was a stark contrast to the chaos brewing in my own home. Calm, organized, professional. Framed diplomas lined the walls, a testament to a long, successful career. Ms. Davis greeted me herself, shaking my hand firmly. "George," she said, her expression serious but kind. "You said it was urgent. Come in, sit down. Tell me what's happening." I didn't waste time with pleasantries. I laid the envelope on her polished mahogany desk. The bank statements showing the suspicious transfers and withdrawals. The credit card bills detailing their lavish spending. And the financial power of attorney Michael had tricked me into signing when I was sick. I explained the overheard conversation, the Green Valley plan, the fake concern, Sophia's fainting act, my subsequent pretense of confusion. Ms. Davis listened intently, her sharp eyes scanning each document as I spoke. Her initial professional calm slowly transformed into a frown of deep concern, then outright indignation when she read the power of attorney. "This is appalling, George," she said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "He slipped this in while you were ill. A financial POA effective immediately, not upon incapacity. That's not just unethical. It borders on fraudulent inducement." First things first, she continued, tapping the deed to the house which I'd also brought. "Your sole ownership is clear and legally sound. They can't sell it without your valid signature or by fraudulently invoking that POA. The POA itself, since you signed it albeit under duress or misunderstanding while unwell, we need to formally revoke it immediately. I'll draft the revocation document today. We'll file it with the county clerk and notify all your financial institutions." That cuts off his legal authority right there. "But George, we need to assume they might try something else, something desperate, especially if they know you're onto them." I told her about the Dr. Evans assessment, the supposed dementia diagnosis Sophia mentioned. Miss Davis leaned back, thinking. A medical assessment obtained under false pretenses, or specifically to facilitate financial exploitation. That's serious. The nursing home plan hinges on that. To admit someone involuntarily, they need more than just one doctor's possibly biased opinion, especially if the patient appears competent. "Have you seen this Dr. Evans report yourself?" "No," I admitted. "They just mentioned his name, said he confirmed I was declining. We need to challenge that," Ms. Davis stated firmly. "I recommend you get an independent geriatric psychiatric evaluation immediately from a reputable specialist we choose. A clean bill of mental health from an unbiased source will be crucial evidence against their claims." "And that special film you mentioned, George, the one you threatened them with, I haven't captured anything definitive yet," I confessed. "I just installed some recording devices yesterday with a friend's help. I'm hoping they'll slip up." "Good," she nodded approvingly. "Discreet recording within your own home is generally permissible for your own protection in this state." especially given the circumstances. But be careful. Capture clear evidence of their plans, their motives, their acknowledgement of your competence when they think you're not listening. Those recordings combined with the financial records and the independent medical evaluation will build an airtight case. Our strategy is clear: revoke the POA, secure your assets, gather irrefutable proof of their conspiracy, and formally document your mental competence. Then we confront them legally, not just to stop the nursing home plan, but potentially to recover the funds they've misappropriated. She paused, looking me directly in the eye. This will get ugly, George. Are you prepared for that, Elizabeth? I said, my voice steady now. They drew first blood. They planned to steal my home, my savings, and my freedom. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to protect what's mine and what Evelyn and I built. Good, she replied with a grim smile. Then let's get to work. Leaving Ms. Davis's office, I felt a weight lift replaced by a focused determination. I had a plan, legal backing. But the Dr. Evans piece still bothered me. How easily had they obtained that supposed diagnosis? Was he incompetent or complicit? That afternoon, Jim Peterson came back over ostensibly to check on my flu recovery. Once Sophia was occupied watching some reality show in the living room, we huddled in the study again. Jim, I need you to work your magic on this. Dr. Evans, I whispered, handing him the name and clinic address Michael had given me. Find out everything you can. Reputation connections, any complaints, anything. Jim, ever the engineer, pulled out his tablet. Dr. Robert Evans, specializing in geriatrics. Okay, looks legitimate. Clinics downtown. Let's see. Online reviews. He scrolled through a few patient review sites. Mixed bag, I murmured, reading over his shoulder. Some praise his bedside manner, others say he's dismissive, rushes appointments. Here's one mentioning he seemed quick to recommend managed care facilities. Interesting. Jim kept digging, searching professional databases, news archives. Wait a minute. What's this? He zoomed in on an article from a local business journal dated about a year ago. Apex Holdings LLC announces new healthcare investment division. Apex Holdings. That was the name on that suspicious $5,000 transfer from my account. And look who's listed on their advisory board. Dr. Robert Evans. My heart skipped a beat. So Evans wasn't just a random doctor. He had a financial connection, however indirect, to a company Michael was funneling my money into. Was it just a coincidence, or was Michael paying Evans through this holding company for a favorable fraudulent diagnosis? Could be nothing, Jim cautioned. Lots of doctors consult for investment firms. But it stinks. It really stinks. Especially combined with that managed care comment. It was another piece of the puzzle, another layer of their deceit. They hadn't just found a pliable doctor. They might have found one with a vested financial interest in seeing elderly patients moved into facilities possibly ones Apex Holdings had interests in. It was speculative but deeply disturbing. I needed those recordings. I needed to hear Michael or Sophia explicitly mention the diagnosis, link it to their plan. The circumstantial evidence was piling up, but the smoking gun was still missing. I just hoped my little spies in the walls would deliver it soon. Before Michael and Sophia realized the confused old man wasn't so confused after all. It took a couple of days. Days where I perfected my role as the aging patriarch, slightly out of touch, occasionally forgetful, but ultimately harmless. I'd nap in my armchair, doze in front of the TV all the while, straining my ears, waiting. Michael and Sophia kept up their facade too, bringing me tea, asking if I needed anything, their solicitousness feeling more like surveillance. But Jim's little gadgets were working silently, patiently, collecting the truth in the unseen corners of my own home. Each evening after they went to bed, I'd creep into the study, plug the receiver into the computer, and listen. The first day yielded mostly mundane chatter. Sophia complaining about a colleague, Michael talking sports on the phone. But then late Tuesday night, I hit gold. It was a recording from the den captured by the device under the desk. Sophia's voice sharp and clear. Sophia, did you talk to Henderson again? Is the deposit absolutely refundable if, you know, if things get delayed, Michael? She said, it's standard procedure, Soph. Fully refundable up to 72 hours before admission. But why would it be delayed to Dad's getting worse? You saw him spill his coffee this morning. Almost scalded himself. Sophia. I know, but he seemed odd after that night he barged in. Like he was watching us for a day or two. Now he seems foggy again, which is good. But I don't like loose ends. And what about the POA? Did you make copies like I told you, Michael? Yes, I made copies. Put one in the safe deposit box. Relax. He signed it. Legally, we have control if needed. Evans's report backs it up. Nobody's going to question us wanting to get him the best care, especially with his episodes. My hands tightened into fists. Episodes. The spilled coffee, I'd bumped the table reaching for the newspaper, a simple, clumsy moment they were twisting into evidence of senility. And the power of attorney, they had copies locked away. Evans's report was clearly the cornerstone of their plan. They weren't just hoping I'd decline. They were actively building a case to force me out if necessary. I kept listening. Another recording, this one from the living room camera Jim had hidden in the ficus tree. Sophia was on the phone, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Sophia. Oh, absolutely. Mrs. Davenport Green Valley is wonderful. State of the art. We visited last week. George, my father-in-law, he's just reached a point where he needs more supervision than we can provide at home. It breaks our hearts truly, but his safety comes first. Yes, terrible dementia progressing so quickly. Dr. Evans has been a godsend. Oh, after the holidays, yes. We want one last lovely Thanksgiving together before the transition. Lies. A river of lies flow in so smoothly, so convincingly. She was already spinning the narrative, painting herself as the devoted, heartbroken daughter-in-law, making a difficult but necessary choice. She wasn't just planning to put me away. She was orchestrating a public relations campaign to justify it. But the most damning recording came from the kitchen near the phone just yesterday afternoon. Michael had come home early. Sophia was there. They must have thought I was napping in my room, Michael. Did you transfer the payment to Prestige? They called again this morning. Said if they don't get at least $3,000 by Friday, they're starting legal action. Sophia. Yes, I transferred it. From the household account. Had to move some money from Dad's savings first. He won't notice. He barely looks at the statements anymore since you convinced him online was better. Michael. I hate this, Soph. Lying to him, taking his money. Sophia. Oh, grow up, Michael. It's not taking, it's managing. And it's temporary. Once we sell the house, we pay everything back. Prestige, the credit cards, everything. We'll be free. We just need to get through the next month. Get him into Green Valley smoothly after Thanksgiving, list the house by December 1st. Evans is on board. He knows getting Dad into a facility aligns with his recommendations. We just need to keep Dad calm and confused until then. Don't let him talk to Peterson or anyone else who might put ideas in his head. Michael. And the film. What was that about? You think he actually recorded something? Sophia scoffs, recorded what, us talking? Please. He was delirious from the flu, probably mixed up a movie he watched with reality. He hasn't mentioned it since. Forget the film. Focus on the plan. Thanksgiving, then Green Valley, then freedom. Got it. Michael sighs heavily. Yeah, I got it. There it was. Confirmation of the debt to Prestige. Confirmation they were actively moving my savings. Confirmation Dr. Evans was not just biased, but on board aligning his recommendations. Confirmation they thought my threat about the film was just senile rambling. And confirmation of their timeline, Thanksgiving, Green Valley, sell the house. Freedom. Their freedom built on my confinement and the theft of my legacy. I saved the audio files, making backup copies onto a small flash drive. This was it. The smoking gun. Not just circumstantial evidence, but their own words, planning, confessing, dismissing me. Ms. Davis needed to hear this immediately. I looked at the calendar. Thanksgiving was just over a week away. The clock was ticking louder than ever. But now I had the ammunition I needed. The special film wasn't just a threat anymore. It was about to become their worst nightmare. The days leading up to Thanksgiving turned into a delicate dance of avoidance. Armed with the damning recordings and Ms. Davis's legal strategy, brewing my main goal was to stall, to appear cooperative, yet somehow unavailable until the final act. Michael and Sophia, emboldened by their belief in my decline and the approaching deadline, started pushing harder. First came the insurance updates. Michael approached me one evening after dinner, holding a thick sheaf of papers and a pen. "Dad," he said, his voice overly patient, like explaining something simple to a child. "Just need your signature on these updated insurance forms. Standard stuff. Wants to make sure everything's in order for, the future." I squinted at the papers, deliberately holding them too close, then too far away. "Oh dear. My eyesight seems terribly blurry tonight, Michael. Must be the new medication Dr. Evans gave me. Terribly strong stuff. Can we look at this tomorrow?" When my head's clearer, I fumbled the papers slightly, letting a few pages slip to the floor. Michael sighed, a flash of annoyance crossing his face before he masked it. "Sure, Dad. Tomorrow, then. Don't want to strain your eyes." He gathered the papers, his lips tight. Score 1 for the blurry vision excuse. A couple of days later, it was Sophia's turn. She came into the study while I was pretending to read the newspaper, holding a single official-looking document. "George, dear," she cooed, placing the paper in front of me. "Just a quick signature needed for this. It's a medical directive Dr. Evans recommended. Just ensures Michael can make decisions if you're ever unable to. It's for your protection." I peered at it, letting my hand shake slightly as I reached for the pen she offered. A medical directive. Yes, very important. But which pen should I use? This blue one or the black one? Evelyn always preferred black ink for important papers. Did I sign George Miller or G. Miller? I forget how Dr. Evans said I should sign these things. I rambled, deliberately obtuse, tapping the pen against the paper, then putting it down. "My hand feels awfully stiff today, Sophia. Arthritis acting up again." Maybe later, after my nap, Sophia's smile strained at the edges. "Of course, George. Whenever you feel up to it." But Dr. Evans did say it was rather important to get it done soon. Her voice held a thin layer of steel beneath the sweetness. Score 2 for the arthritis excuse. Then came the push for another doctor's visit. Michael announced brightly one morning, "Dad, I made an appointment for you with Dr. Evans this afternoon. Just a quick follow-up. Make sure those sedatives are working properly." "Oh, this afternoon," I frowned, looking confused. "But isn't that when Jim Peterson is coming over to help me sort through Evelyn's old photo albums?" "We planned it last week. Terribly sorry, Michael can't possibly cancel on Jim. He's rearranged his whole day. Maybe next week." Michael's jaw clenched. I could see him mentally calculating, realizing that pushing too hard might look suspicious, especially if Jim was involved. "Fine, Dad," he clipped out. "Next week, then. But you really need to see the doctor." Their frustration was palpable. They needed my signature, needed that follow-up visit to solidify their case for my incompetence before Thanksgiving. And I, the frail, forgetful old man, kept inconveniently having blurry vision, stiff hands, and prior commitments. Each delay bought me precious time, moving me closer to the day I could finally play the special film they had no idea existed. The tension in the house was thick enough to cut with a knife, but I just kept shuffling along, smiling vaguely, waiting for my moment. My stalling tactics were working perhaps too well. As Thanksgiving loomed just days away now, the polite facade Michael and Sophia wore began to crack under the strain of their impatience. Their concern became suffocating, their supervision constant. Suddenly, my car keys weren't on the hook by the door anymore. "Oh, Dad," Michael said casually. When I asked, I put them away safely. "You know, just in case you feel dizzy again. Wouldn't want you driving if you're not 100%. I didn't argue, just nodded vaguely, but the message was clear. My independence was being curtailed. Phone calls became trickier. Sophia started answering the landline before I could reach it, screening the calls. "Who was it, dear?" I'd ask innocently. "Oh, just a telemarketer, George, nothing important," she'd reply, even if I hadn't heard the phone ring. My flip phone became my lifeline, hidden under my mattress, used only when I was certain I was alone. They started talking more openly around me, perhaps convinced my foggy state meant I wouldn't understand or remember. They discussed renovation plans for the house after I was gone, right there at the dinner table. Sophia mused about knocking down the wall between the kitchen and dining room to create an open concept space. Michael talked about converting my study into a home gym. They spoke as if I were already a ghost, my presence merely a temporary inconvenience in their future home. "You know," Michael said one evening, looking around the living room critically, "we should probably get those appraisers in right after Thanksgiving. Get the listing up before the new year. The market slows down in January." "Appraisers?" I asked, pretending confusion. "For what, dear?" "Oh, just assessing the value, Dad, for insurance purposes," he lied smoothly. "Always good to have an updated valuation." Sophia chimed in, "We need to decide what furniture to keep, too. Most of this is so dated. We'll need a complete refresh." She glanced at Evelyn's favorite armchair, the one I was sitting in, with unconcealed disdain. The cruelty of it, planning to erase Evelyn's memory, our shared life, while I sat right there, was breathtaking. But I held my tongue, merely nodding as if considering the practicality of it all. Inside, the cold rage burned hotter. Then came the announcement of the Thanksgiving guests. Usually it was just the three of us, a quiet meal. This year, Sophia announced brightly, "My sister Caroline and her husband Bill are coming, and my cousin Martha. Won't that be lovely, George?" A full house just like the old days. Lovely wasn't the word I'd use. Caroline, Bill, Martha, Sophia's side of the family. People I barely knew who only ever seemed impressed by Michael's supposed success. They weren't coming for turkey and family bonding. They were coming as reinforcements, as witnesses to my supposed decline, to add weight to Sophia and Michael's narrative when the time came. Sophia would undoubtedly perform the role of the dutiful, caring daughter-in-law, pushed to her limit by a difficult, senile old man. Her family would cluck sympathetically, shake their heads sadly, and later attest to how confused and frail I seemed. It was a strategic move designed to isolate me further and legitimize their plan in the eyes of others. The pressure about the paperwork also intensified. Michael started leaving the insurance forms and the medical directive on the coffee table, conspicuously placed with a pen. "Just whenever you feel up to it, Dad," he'd say, pointing them out daily. "But don't forget, they are important." Sophia took a different tack, trying guilt. "George, if something were to happen to you suddenly, and Michael didn't have the authority to make decisions, it would be chaos. We just want to be prepared to make things easier for you. Easier for them," she meant. Easier to take control. Easier to ship me off. I continued my act, picking up the papers, squinting at them, then setting them down again with a sigh. So much fine print, George. My eyes just aren't what they used to be. I'll ask Jim Peterson to look them over for me when he comes by next. Mentioning Jim always made them back off slightly. They knew Jim was sharp, knew he wouldn't be easily fooled, but their frustration was mounting. I heard them arguing quietly one night after they thought I'd gone to bed. "Sophia. He's doing it on purpose, Michael. The blurry vision, the stiff hands, Jim Peterson. He's stalling. What if he knows, Michael? Knows what? How could he know?" "He's confused," Evans confirmed it. "You're being paranoid, Soph. He's just old and stubborn." "Sophia, stubborn or not, we need those signatures before Thanksgiving. Henderson at Green Valley needs the finalized admission papers by Monday, and the bank needs the POA revocation countered if we're going to access the main savings account for the house deposit. Time is running out, so they did know Ms. Davis had filed the POA revocation. They were trying to get me to sign another one or something similar to override it. And the Green Valley deadline was Monday after Thanksgiving. Their desperation was making them sloppy, revealing more of their plan. Thanksgiving wasn't just a convenient date, it was their launch point. The day the trap was set to spring. 4 more days. 4 more days of playing this dangerous game. 4 more days until I could finally reveal the special film that would expose everything. The wait felt like an eternity, each hour thick with unspoken tension, each fake smile exchanged a silent declaration of war. With Thanksgiving just 2 days away, my study became my command center. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. Each night after Michael and Sophia retired, convinced the old man was safely tucked away, I'd lock myself in and work. The recordings Jim's devices captured were a treasure trove of treachery. Listening to them again, splicing together the most damning segments felt like twisting a knife in my own gut. Hearing my son's voice calmly discussing my disposal, hearing Sophia's contemptuous dismissal of my worth. It was brutal, but necessary. I wasn't a tech wizard like Jim's kid, but I knew my way around the old desktop. I used a simple editing program isolating the key conversations. Sophia's initial whisper about Green Valley and the debt. Michael's weak protests overridden by her insistence. Their discussion about the power of attorney and Dr. Evans being on board. Sophia's phone call painting me as a dementia patient to her friend. And the absolute worst, Michael and Sophia in the kitchen confirming they were taking my savings. Michael admitting his reluctance, but Sophia pushing the plan forward. Thanksgiving, then Green Valley, then freedom. I clipped each segment cleanly, removing background noise where possible, arranging them in chronological order. A narrative of their deceit told in their own voices. This wasn't just evidence. It was their confession recorded and ready for playback. My special film. Next, the playback. I couldn't risk fumbling with flash drives or computer connections at the critical moment. The big flat-screen TV in the living room, their TV, ironically, had a USB port. I transferred the edited audio file onto a brand new flash drive, labeling it innocuously Family Photos Backup. I tested it meticulously, plugging it into the TV, navigating the menu, something I'd watched Michael do countless times, ensuring the file played clearly, the volume loud enough to be heard over any potential interruptions or denials. I tucked the flash drive into the small pocket of my old tweed vest, where it would remain until showtime. Then a final brief call to Elizabeth Davis on the flip phone. Elizabeth, George. Just confirming. Thanksgiving dinner. Dessert course. Is the package ready for delivery? Confirmation. Understood. George, her voice was calm, reassuring. The confirmation documents are prepared and ready for immediate electronic filing upon your signal. I'll be available by phone throughout the evening. Just give the word. Good. Thank you, Elizabeth. I hung up. Knowing she was ready, that the legal gears were poised to turn the moment I gave the signal, settled my nerves. Finally, the most important task. I retrieved the metal lockbox from my desk drawer. Inside, I gathered the essentials, the original deed to the house, my real will, the one leaving everything to Evelyn's favorite hospital charity, drafted years ago but never updated until now, thanks to Ms. Davis, the incriminating bank statements I'd printed copies of the POA. Michael had tricked me into signing, and of course the backup flash drive containing the recordings. I added a few irreplaceable photos of Evelyn and a young Michael, a painful reminder of what was being lost. I placed everything into a sturdy cardboard box, taping it shut securely. I made one last call to Jim Peterson. Jim, it's George. Operation Turkey Drop is a go for tomorrow morning. Usual time, back porch. Can you manage? Consider it managed, George, he replied, understanding immediately. Box will be secured. You just focus on the dinner party. Be safe, buddy. Thanks, Jim. Couldn't do this without you. Tomorrow morning, while Michael and Sophia were busy with last-minute Thanksgiving preparations, I would discreetly place the box on the back porch, hidden behind the recycling bins. Jim would swing by on his morning walk and retrieve it, taking it to Ms. Davis's office for safekeeping. Whatever happened on Thanksgiving night, the core evidence, the legal documents, my true intentions would be secure. They couldn't touch them. They couldn't destroy them. As dawn began to break, I finally shut down the computer. The flash drive felt heavy in my vest pocket. The plan was in motion. All the pieces were in place. All that remained was the performance of a lifetime on Thanksgiving Day, leading up to the final, unavoidable curtain call. They thought they were closing in for the kill. They had no idea I was the one who had set the trap. The house buzzed with a false energy in the final day before Thanksgiving. Sophia was in her element, orchestrating preparations like a general before battle. She ordered expensive pre-made side dishes online, claiming she didn't want me overexerting myself cooking, and barked instructions at Michael about polishing the silverware, the good silver Evelyn and I had received as a wedding gift. He scurried around, eager to please her, occasionally shooting me an uneasy glance as if remembering I still existed in the house they were already mentally redecorating. I mostly stayed out of the way, retreating to my study or sitting quietly in the living room watching them desecrate the rituals Evelyn and I held dear. Thanksgiving. It had always been Evelyn's favorite holiday. Our house, smelling of roasting turkey and her famous pecan pie, would be filled with warmth, genuine laughter. Not this brittle, forced cheer Sophia was trying to manufacture. I remembered Michael as a boy, barely tall enough to see over the counter, meticulously arranging olives on the relish tray. His small face serious with concentration. Later, as a teenager, he'd be in charge of mashing the potatoes, always sneaking extra butter when he thought we weren't looking. Evelyn would playfully swat his hand, her eyes twinkling. It was simple, real, full of love. Now Sophia was discussing floral arrangements that cost more than our entire grocery bill used to, complaining that Evelyn's old china plates were charming but chipped. Everything had to be a performance, a display of status for her sister and cousin who were coming tomorrow. A status built entirely on my money, my legacy. The guests weren't coming to share gratitude. They were coming to witness my final act, orchestrated by Sophia, where I'd play the role of the fading patriarch, graciously accepting his inevitable move to better care. The thought made my stomach clench. This house, it wasn't just wood and nails. It was the place Michael took his first steps. The place Evelyn and I danced in the kitchen on our 25th anniversary. The place we held each other and cried when the doctor gave us her diagnosis. Every floorboard creak, every patch of sunlight on the worn rug held a piece of our history. They saw it as equity square footage, an asset to be liquidated to fund their irresponsible lives. They didn't see the 50 years of dreams, struggles, triumphs, and quiet joys embedded in the very walls. Selling it wasn't just selling property. It was selling my life, with Evelyn selling Michael's childhood, selling the very soul of our family. I thought about the conversation I'd overheard. Michael's weak protest. After everything Dad's done. Quickly silenced by Sophia's greed. Had he forgotten? Had he truly forgotten the nights I stayed up helping him with homework, the weekends spent teaching him to ride a bike, coaching his little league team, the sacrifices Evelyn and I made so he could go to college, something neither of us had the chance to do? Had that downtown condo, those fancy dinners, Sophia's approval become more important than 50 years of unwavering parental love and support? It seemed so. The Michael. I raised the one who cried when his hamster died, the one who promised his mother he'd always look after me. He was gone, replaced by this hollow man chasing Sophia's materialistic dreams. Tomorrow, Sophia's family would arrive. They'd fill my house with their noise, their judgment, their complicity in this charade. They'd eat the food bought with my money, sit on my furniture, and subtly reinforce the idea that I was the obstacle, the burden. And Michael would stand by, letting it happen, perhaps even participating in the performance. But they didn't know about the flash drive in my pocket. They didn't know about Ms. Davis waiting for my signal. They didn't know that this Thanksgiving wouldn't be the beginning of my end, but the beginning of theirs. This wasn't just about saving my house anymore. It was about defending Evelyn's memory. It was about reclaiming the truth. It was about showing them, and maybe even myself, that George Miller wasn't finished yet. Not by a long shot. Thanksgiving dinner was an exercise in forced pleasantry. Sophia's sister Caroline, her husband Bill, and cousin Martha filled the dining room with overly loud chatter, mostly directed at Sophia and Michael, praising their beautiful home and Michael's successful career. They offered me polite, distant smiles, the kind you give a distant relative you feel obligated to acknowledge but don't really want to engage with. Sophia played the gracious hostess, fluttering around, refilling wine glasses, except mine, I noticed, laughing a little too loudly at Bill's jokes. Michael sat mostly silent, picking at his food, occasionally forcing a smile when Sophia nudged him. The turkey, ordered pre-cooked from a gourmet store, was dry. The expensive side dishes Sophia had insisted on lacked the warmth of Evelyn's homemade stuffing and cranberry sauce. But Sophia's family gushed over everything. "Oh, Sophia, this is divine!" Caroline exclaimed. "You must give me the recipe for this butternut squash soup," Sophia beamed, accepting praise for food she hadn't even touched, bought with money she hadn't earned. They directed occasional, condescendingly gentle questions towards me. "How are you feeling, George?" Caroline asked, her voice syrupy sweet. "Sophia tells us you haven't been quite yourself lately." "Just tired, dear," I mumbled, playing my part. "This flu really took it out of me." Bill chimed in. "Well, it's good you have Michael and Sophia here to look after you. Must be a relief knowing you're in good hands." His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. They were all playing their parts in Sophia's carefully constructed narrative. Michael cleared his throat. "Yeah, Dad, we've been talking. Sophia and I think maybe after the holidays it would be good for you to have, more consistent support. Maybe explore some options." He couldn't even look me in the eye as he said it. Sophia placed her hand reassuringly on his arm. "We just want what's best for you, George," she added, her eyes glistening with fake concern. "A place where you'll be safe and well cared for. Like Green Valley. It's lovely there. They were doing it. Right here at the Thanksgiving table, laying the groundwork, trying to normalize the idea in front of witnesses." My cue. I slowly put down my fork, the clink loud in a sudden lull in the conversation. Everyone looked at me. I took a slow sip of water, feeling their expectant gazes. They probably thought I was going to cry or get confused or maybe even agree, meekly. "Actually," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, clear-cutting through the strained atmosphere. "Before we talk about my future arrangements, and before dessert, I have something I'd like to share. A little home movie. Something I put together specially for this Thanksgiving." The smiles froze on their faces. Sophia's hand tightened on Michael's arm. "What are you talking about, Dad?" Michael asked, trying to sound casual, but a note of panic crept into his voice. "Home movie. Since when do you make movies?" "Oh, it's a recent hobby," I replied, allowing myself a small, tight smile. "Technology is amazing these days. This one is particularly illuminating. About family. About trust, about planning for the future." I picked up the TV remote from the sideboard, the small flash drive feeling solid and real in my vest pocket. "I think you'll all find it very educational, especially you, Michael, and you, Sophia. Shall we watch?" All eyes were on me, then shifted to the large television screen mounted above the fireplace. Sophia's sister Caroline chuckled nervously. "A home movie, George. Are we going to see baby pictures of Michael?" Bill, her husband, smirked. "Hope it's short, George. Turkey's making me sleepy. Only Michael and Sophia weren't smiling. Their faces were pale, their eyes fixed on the screen with dawning horror. Sophia gripped Michael's hand so tightly, her knuckles were white. I ignored the attempts at humor. I navigated to the USB drive, family photos backup, and selected the single audio file I had prepared. My special film. I pressed play. Sophia. Did you talk to Henderson again? Is the deposit absolutely refundable if things get delayed? Michael, she said, it's standard procedure, Soph. Fully refundable. But why would it be delayed? Dad's getting worse. You saw him spill his coffee. Sophia. I know, but he seemed odd after that night he barged in. Now he seems foggy again, which is good. And what about the POA? Did you make copies? Michael. Yes, I made copies. Relax, he signed it. Legally, we have control if needed. Evans's report backs it up. Caroline's smile vanished. Bill sat up straighter, looking sharply at Michael and Sophia. Martha, the cousin, put her hand over her mouth. Michael sank back in his chair as if punched, avoiding everyone's gaze. Sophia's face flushed bright red. That's taken out of context, she stammered, her voice high-pitched. We were just discussing contingency plans. Contingency plans, I asked quietly, letting the recording continue. The next segment began. Sophia on the phone with her friend Mrs. Davenport. Sophia, oh absolutely Mrs. Davenport, Green Valley is wonderful. George, my father-in-law, he's just reached a point where he needs more supervision. It breaks our hearts truly, but his safety comes first. Yes, terrible dementia progressing so quickly. Dr. Evans has been a godsend. Oh, after the holidays, yes. We want one last lovely Thanksgiving together before the transition. Caroline looked at her sister aghast. Dementia. Sophia, George seems perfectly fine to me. Confused, maybe, Bill muttered clearly, recalling Sophia's earlier narrative. Michael covered his face with his hands. Sophia glared at the TV, then at me, pure venom in her eyes. You bugged us. You recorded our private conversations. How dare you? How dare I countered, my voice dangerously low. How dare you plot to dispose of me based on lies? How dare you use my supposed illness to steal my home? But the worst was yet to come. The final longest segment began. The kitchen conversation. Michael, did you transfer the payment to Prestige? They called again. Need at least $3,000 by Friday. Sophia. Yes, I transferred it. From the household account. Had to move some money from Dad's savings first. He won't notice. Michael. I hate this, Soph. Lying to him, taking his money. Sophia. Oh, grow up, Michael. It's not taking, it's managing. And it's temporary. Once we sell the house, we pay everything back. Prestige, the credit cards, everything. We just need to get through the next month. Get him into Green Valley smoothly after Thanksgiving, list the house by December 1st. Evans is on board. He knows getting Dad into a facility aligns with his recommendations. Keep Dad calm and confused until then. Michael. And the film, what was that about? You think he actually recorded something? Sophia scoffs, recorded what, us talking? Please. He was delirious from the flu. Forget the film. Focus on the plan. Thanksgiving then, Green Valley, then freedom. Got it, Michael. Sighs heavily. Yeah, I got it. The silence in the room was absolute, suffocating. Bill slowly pushed his chair back, staring at Michael with utter contempt. Caroline looked horrified, shaking her head slowly, tears welling in her eyes. Martha seemed frozen, unable to process what she'd heard. Sophia leaped to her feet, knocking her chair over with a clatter. Lies, all lies. It's edited. He's twisting our words. Michael, tell them he's crazy, tell them he's making this up. But Michael didn't move. He sat slumped in his chair, head bowed, shoulders shaking. He couldn't deny it. He couldn't lie anymore. It was all there in their own voices. The debt. The manipulation of my savings. Dr. Evans's complicity. The cold, calculated plan to get me out, sell my house, and achieve their freedom. And their dismissal of my initial threat, believing I was simply delirious. Crazy, I said softly, turning to face Sophia, my voice filled with a sadness that surprised even me. Am I crazy for wanting to live in my own home? Am I crazy for expecting respect from my own son and his wife? Am I crazy for not wanting my life's work stolen to pay off your debts? I looked at Michael, still hiding his face. Are these the actions of a loving son, Michael? Is this how you honor your mother's memory? Is this the support you claimed you were providing? He didn't answer. He just sobbed quietly. A broken man exposed. Sophia stood trembling, cornered, her face contorted with rage and desperation. She looked from her sister to Bill to Martha, seeking an ally but found only shocked disapproval. Her carefully constructed world, her image, her plan. It had all shattered in the space of a 10-minute recording. My special film. The truth, raw and undeniable, played out on their own giant TV screen. The show was over, and the applause was deafening silence. The silence stretched on, broken only by Michael's quiet, pathetic weeping into his hands. Sophia stood frozen for a beat, her chest heaving, her eyes darting wildly between the blank TV screen, her horrified family members, and me. Then the denial erupted, shrill and desperate. "It's fake," she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at the television. "He faked it. He must have spliced things together, taken words out of context. Michael, tell them it's not true. Tell them George is confused. He's paranoid. He's been acting strangely ever since the flu." But Michael didn't look up. He just shook his head, his shoulders slumped in utter defeat. I can't. Soph, he choked out between sobs. It's what we said. Sophia stared at him, her face contorting with disbelief, then fury. "You coward," she spat. "You useless coward. Are you going to let him do this to us after everything I've done, after everything we planned?" Her sister Carolyn finally found her voice, horrified. "Planned. Sophia, what have you done? What was all that about dementia? About Green Valley? About prestige and Dad's savings?" Her voice rose with each question, trembling with dawning comprehension and disgust. Bill Caroline's husband, who had been silent until now, stood up slowly, his face grim. "Michael," he said, his voice low and dangerous, "is what we just heard true? Did you conspire with your wife to put your father away, sell his house and use his money to pay off your debts?" Michael finally lifted his head, his face tear-streaked and blotchy, unable to meet Bill's hard gaze. It got out of control," he stammered. "The debts," Sophia thought. "We just needed to steal from your own father." Bill cut him off sharply. "Needed to lie about his health, needed to treat him like garbage. I've known George for years through you, Michael. He's a good man. How could you, Martha?" The cousin, who had been pale and quiet, suddenly burst into tears. "Oh, Sophia, how could you be so cruel to your own father-in-law, planning to put him in a home, talking about him like he's already dead? It's monstrous." Fia looked cornered like a trapped animal. She turned back to me, her eyes blazing with hatred. "This is your fault," she screamed. "You drove us to this, always controlling, always judging, never helping enough. If you had just given us the money we needed." "When we asked, none of this would have happened, given you the money," I repeated, incredulous. "Sophia, I've given you tens of thousands of dollars over the years. I paid off Michael's debts, funded his failed ventures, paid for your car, your vacations, your endless stream of essentials. When was it ever enough? When would it ever have been enough?" She opened her mouth to retort, but no sound came out. The sheer audacity of her accusation, the complete lack of remorse seemed to stun even her own family into silence. Bill shook his head slowly. Caroline was openly crying now, looking at her sister as if seeing her for the first time. Martha just stared, horrified. Sophia looked around the room, desperately seeking validation, an ally, anything. But all she saw were faces reflecting shock, disgust, and judgment. Her carefully crafted image, her performance as the perfect wife and daughter-in-law, had crumbled into dust. The reality of her greed, her manipulation, her utter lack of empathy was laid bare for everyone to see. The fight seemed to drain out of her all at once. Her face went slack, her eyes unfocused. She swayed on her feet, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Oh God," she murmured, her hand fluttering towards her head. "I feel dizzy. The room is spinning." And then, just like the night I'd first confronted them, her eyes rolled back and she collapsed onto the floor again, landing heavily near the overturned dining chair. Caroline rushed forward. "Sophia. Oh my God. Sophia." Bill knelt beside her, checking her pulse, looking concerned, despite his obvious anger. Martha wrung her hands. "Should we call an ambulance?" Michael remained frozen in his chair for a moment longer, staring at his wife's still form, then seemed to snap back to reality, scrambling towards her. Soph, wake up!" I stood watching the chaos unfold. Was she faking again, a final desperate bid for sympathy? Or had the shock, the utter public humiliation truly overwhelmed her? It didn't matter. The truth was out. The recordings had done their work. Her feint, whether real or feigned, couldn't undo the damage. Her plan was in ruins. Her character exposed. And my son was left weeping amidst the wreckage of the life he had chosen, the betrayal he had enabled. The Thanksgiving dinner was well and truly over. While Carolyn fanned Sophia's face with a napkin, and Martha fretted about calling 911, though nobody actually made the call, Bill just stood there, arms crossed, staring down at Michael with undisguised contempt. Michael seemed torn between trying to help his unconscious wife and shrinking under Bill's glare. The festive Thanksgiving atmosphere had completely evaporated, replaced by the acrid smell of exposed deceit. Ignoring the melodrama unfolding on my living room floor, I calmly took out my old flip phone. My hands were perfectly steady now. I dialed the number Miss Davis had given me for this exact purpose. It rang once. Davis, Elizabeth Davis's voice came through the line, crisp and businesslike. "Elizabeth, it's George Miller. Showtime. Could you speak to my son and his guests?" I pressed the speakerphone button, holding the phone up slightly so everyone could hear. "Ms. Davis, certainly, George. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Davis. I am George Miller's legal counsel. I understand you've all just been privy to some disturbing information regarding Mr. Miller's son, Michael, and his wife, Sophia." Michael looked up sharply from Sophia, his face paling further. "Lawyer Dad. What is this, Ms. Davis?" "Mr. Michael Miller, your father consulted me several weeks ago regarding concerns about potential financial exploitation and undue influence. I have reviewed extensive financial documentation, including bank statements, credit card records, and a certain power of attorney document, obtained under questionable circumstances, while Mr. George Miller was recovering from illness. That power of attorney has already been legally revoked, and all relevant financial institutions notified." Sophia, who had started to stir again, moaning softly, froze at the mention of the revoked POA. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing on the phone in my hand, with dawning comprehension. "Miss Davis. Furthermore, I have been made aware of audio recordings capturing conversations between Michael and Sophia Miller within the confines of Mr. George Miller's private residence. These recordings documenting discussions of debt misappropriation of Mr. Miller's funds, conspiracy to commit elder financial fraud, and plans to involuntarily commit Mr. Miller to a care facility based on a potentially falsified medical assessment were legally obtained under this state's one-party consent laws regarding recordings made within one's own home. They constitute admissible evidence. Bill nodded slowly. Caroline gasped. Martha looked faint herself. Ms. Davis, based on this evidence, Mr. George Miller is demanding that Michael Miller, Sophia Miller, and any unauthorized guests immediately vacate this property. Failure to do so will result in law enforcement being contacted to remove you for trespassing. Sophia sat bolt upright, ignoring Caroline's attempt to help her. Trespassing. This is our home too. Michael's father invited us. Ms. Davis. That invitation, Mrs. Miller, was predicated on familial trust, a trust you and your husband have demonstrably violated. Mr. George Miller hereby formally revokes any permission previously granted for you to reside here. You have 1 hour to gather your essential personal belongings and leave. Miss Davis. Additionally, Mr. Michael Miller, you should be aware that we are preparing a civil lawsuit to recover substantial funds transferred or spent without Mr. George Miller's informed consent, potentially totaling in excess of $50,000 based on preliminary reviews. We are also reporting Dr. Robert Evans to the State Medical Board for investigation regarding his assessment and potential complicity in this scheme. Finally, depending on the outcome of further investigation, criminal charges for conspiracy and elder financial abuse may be pursued. Michael stared at the phone, speechless, looking utterly broken. Ms. Davis, Mr. George Miller is prepared to take all necessary legal steps to protect himself and his assets. I strongly advise you, Michael and Sophia, to comply with the request to vacate immediately and consult with your own legal counsel regarding the serious matters I have just outlined. George, call me back once they have departed, or if you require police assistance. Thank you, Elizabeth, I said calmly, and ended the call. I looked around the room. Bill met my gaze with a look of grim respect. Caroline avoided my eyes, focusing on her sister with a mixture of pity and shame. Martha looked like she wanted to disappear. And Michael just sat on the floor beside Sophia, the fight completely gone out of him. Sophia glared at me, pure hatred radiating from her, but the fight was gone from her too. She knew she was beaten. The lawyer's calm, authoritative voice had sealed their fate more effectively than any shouting match could have. The special film had played, and now the credits were rolling on their time in my house. Sophia stumbled up, her face a mask of disbelief and fury. Lawyer lawsuit, revoked POA. Michael, what is going on? What did you let him do? This is your fault. You were supposed to handle him. You were supposed to make sure he signed the new papers. Michael finally pushed himself off the floor, his voice rising, laced with hysteria. My fault. You're the one who pushed for this whole Green Valley scheme. You're the one who maxed out the cards. You're the one who talked to Evans. I told you he seemed suspicious, so now it's my fault. Sophia shrieked back, forgetting her previous faintness entirely. You were happy enough to spend the money, happy enough to dream about that downtown condo, happy enough to let me handle the dirty work while you played the dutiful son. Their ugly argument filled the room, a pathetic spectacle of blame and recrimination. Caroline tried to intervene. Sophia, Michael, please, not now. But they ignored her, lost in their own toxic spiral. Bill just watched them, shaking his head in disgust. Martha looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Sophia suddenly rounded on me again, her eyes wild. You won't get away with this, George, she hissed. We'll fight you. We'll tell everyone how senile you are. We'll get doctors, real doctors. We'll prove you're incompetent. You'll see. You'll end up in Green Valley one way or another, and we'll get what's ours. Her threats felt hollow now, the desperate flailing of someone who knew they'd lost. I let her rave for a moment, then held up a hand, silencing her mid-shriek. Enough, I said, my voice cutting through the noise, calm but absolute. There will be no more fighting, no more threats. There will only be consequences. Supported by my legal counsel, Ms. Elizabeth Davis, these are the terms. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. First, you, Michael, and you, Sophia, will vacate my property immediately. Ms. Davis gave you 1 hour. That clock started the moment she hung up. You will take only your essential personal belongings. Anything purchased with my money directly or indirectly through those credit cards stays. Michael started to protest. Dad. Wait, where are we supposed to go? We don't have. Second, I continued, ignoring him. As Ms. Davis stated, all financial ties are severed. The joint account is closed. The credit cards you held are canceled. The power of attorney you tricked me into signing is revoked and legally void. You will not receive another penny from me. Ever. Sophia gasped, looking genuinely stricken for the first time. No money. But the rent, the car payment. Third, I went on relentless. My last will and testament is being formally changed. The document you believed secured your future inheritance is now null and void. My estate will be distributed according to my wishes, wishes that no longer include rewarding betrayal and deceit. Fourth, Ms. Davis is proceeding with legal action, a civil suit to recover the significant funds you misappropriated over the past several years. We have meticulous documentation. And yes, Sophia, that includes the charges for your spa days, your designer bags, and those Hawaiian airline tickets. We are also filing formal complaints regarding the fraudulent medical assessment and the conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse. Depending on the district attorney's findings, criminal charges are a distinct possibility. Michael looked like he was going to be sick. Sophia just stared, momentarily speechless. Finally, I concluded. If you are not out of this house within the stipulated hour, I will, as Ms. Davis advised, contact the sheriff's department and have you removed as trespassers. Your choice. Silence descended again, heavy and final. Caroline quickly stood up. Bill, Martha, I think we should go. She didn't look at Sophia or Michael. Bill nodded curtly, already heading for the door. Martha practically ran after them, murmuring apologies, without looking at anyone. Within minutes, Sophia's reinforcements, her intended witnesses, had abandoned ship, leaving her and Michael alone to face the wreckage. The hour that followed was a blur of frantic, humiliating activity. Sophia, her face tight with fury and unshed tears, stormed upstairs, throwing clothes haphazardly into suitcases. Michael moved like a zombie, numbly packing boxes with their belongings from the den and living room. They argued in hushed, angry tones, whose fault it was, what they would do now, where they would go. I simply sat in Evelyn's armchair, watching them dismantle the life they had built on my foundation piece by painful piece. I didn't help. I didn't hinder. I just watched. They tried to take the big TV? No, I said calmly. That stays. It was purchased while you lived here, funded indirectly by me. Sophia started to argue, but a sharp look from Michael silenced her. They left it. They tried to pack the good silver. That stays too, I said. Wedding gift to Evelyn and me. Not yours. With every item denied, their humiliation deepened. They were leaving with little more than their clothes and the crushing weight of their debts. As the hour mark approached, they dragged the last of their bags and boxes out to Michael's car, stuffing the trunk and back seat. Sophia refused to look at me, her face a stony mask. Michael paused at the door, his hand on the knob. Dad, he started, his voice thick. Save it, Michael. I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. There's nothing left to say. He flinched as if struck, then turned and walked out, closing the door softly behind him. I heard the car engine start, the tires crunch on the gravel driveway, and then silence. A profound, echoing silence. The house was mine again. Empty. Quiet. Peaceful. But the victory felt strangely hollow, overshadowed by the gaping wound where my relationship with my son used to be. The silence that fell after Michael and Sophia drove away was immense, deeper than just the absence of their shouting and accusations. It was the silence of a battle won, a siege lifted. For the first time in months, possibly years, the house felt truly mine again. But the victory lap felt quiet, empty. I walked through the rooms surveying the damage. Not just the physical mess they'd left in their wake. Overturned lamps, scattered papers, the faint lingering smell of Sophia's cloying perfume. But the emotional residue. The ghost of their betrayal seemed to cling to the walls. My first call wasn't to celebrate, but to a locksmith. New locks, top of the line. Rekeyed everything. No more surprise visits. No more feeling unsafe in my own home. Then came the cleanup. It took 2 days, filling trash bags with the remnants of their brief, chaotic occupation. Scrubbing away faint stains on the carpet where Sophia had spilled wine during her final tantrum. Replacing the broken picture frames, carefully setting photos of Evelyn back in their rightful places. It felt like an exorcism, purging the house of their negative energy, reclaiming my space 1 square foot at a time. It was hard work for a 71-year-old man, but every polished surface, every straightened cushion felt like a small victory, a step back towards normalcy, towards peace. Jim Peterson came by often, not hovering, but just checking in. Brought over coffee, helped me move a heavy armchair back to its original spot. We didn't talk much about Michael and Sophia directly. He didn't need to ask. I didn't need to explain. He just sat with me on the porch, sometimes watching the sunset, a comfortable silence between old friends that spoke volumes more than words ever could. His quiet support was an anchor in those first few disorienting weeks. Miss Davis kept me updated on the legal front. The civil suit was proceeding. Michael and Sophia, facing mounting legal fees and the undeniable evidence, quickly sought a settlement rather than face a public trial. They agreed to repay a significant portions of the documented misappropriated funds over several years, though Ms. Davis cautioned me not to expect miracles regarding full repayment. The complaint against Dr. Evans spurred a medical board investigation. His reputation, I heard, took a significant hit. And the criminal charges, the DA offered them a plea deal, probation, hefty fines, mandatory counseling, and importantly, a permanent restraining order, keeping them away from me and my property in exchange for pleading guilty to lesser charges related to the fraud and conspiracy. They took it. No jail time, but a criminal record that would follow them. Justice perhaps not as harsh as they deserved, but definitive nonetheless. True to my word, I met with Ms. Davis again and finalized the changes to my will. The bulk of my estate, including the house they'd tried so desperately to steal, would now go to Evelyn's favorite charities. The local animal shelter, the children's hospital wing she used to volunteer at. A smaller portion to Jim's grandkids' college fund as a thank you. And Michael. I left him a token amount enough that he couldn't legally contest the will, claiming he was forgotten, but not enough to reward his betrayal. It felt right. Final. Standing alone in my quiet house, looking at the photos of Evelyn, of Michael, as a bright-eyed boy clutching my hand, the grief hit me then, sharp and unexpected. Not grief for Evelyn. That was a familiar, dull ache I'd learned to live with. This was grief for my son. Grief for the man he should have been, the relationship we should have had. Had I failed him somewhere along the way, spoiled him too much, as Evelyn sometimes worried? Or was this darkness, this greed, something inherent in him brought to the surface by Sophia's influence I didn't know? Perhaps I never would. But dwelling on blame wouldn't change anything. He had made his choices, and I had made mine. There was a profound sadness in that realization, but also a release. I was no longer responsible for his mistakes, his debts, his happiness. I was only responsible for my own. 71 years old and finally truly independent. Now, months later, life has settled into a new rhythm, peaceful, quiet, mine. I wake up when I want. I eat what I want. I spend my days puttering in the garden. Evelyn loved reading the books I never had time for, occasionally meeting Jim for coffee. The house doesn't feel too big anymore. It feels like home. My home. Safe. Secure. Sometimes I sit on the porch swing Evelyn and I picked out together, watching the waves roll in, just breathing. Breathing free. The special film was shown. The truth came out. And now, finally, there is peace.